welcome. I would like to welcome you to episode 467 of the Unpopular Podcast. This is the man, the myth, the legend, Jalen Hunter. Here at the Unpopular Podcast, I'm not going to ask you to agree with me. I'm asking you to hear me out. I said this before, and 9 times out of 10, I will say it again. When you get to the mountaintop, when you get to the NBA Finals, when you get to the Super Bowl, when you get to the World Series, you need your best players to play like your best players. I know I said that on social media, and somebody DM'd me talking about, well, what about the Boston Celtics? And Jason Tatum didn't play his best, and they still won a championship. And I was trying to explain to him, like, yo, while yes, that is correct, Jason Tatum didn't play his best, he played good enough, and you still had somebody in Jaylen Brown that is still an NBA elite player playing well, which is why you saw Jaylen Brown pretty much sweep the individual awards in the playoffs. Your best players, I'll say it like this. Your role players can get you there, which is very unlikely, but your role players can get you there. But if your players, best players, do not play their best, you will not win. And if you want an example, like I said, I will probably have to say this again at some point in this podcast lifespan. But if you need any proof about that, look at the Dodgers and the Yankees. Congratulations to the Dodgers for winning the World Series. We touted, and rightfully so, we touted this World Series as one of the greatest World Series we could have ever seen. There was about 26 or 27, I believe, All-Stars, a bunch of Golden Gloves, a bunch of MVP. It was just stars rattled through both teams. And there's a reason why a lot of people had the Yankees winning it all. There's a reason why a lot of people had the Dodgers winning it all. There was not a shortage of stars. And I said this, most people on sports media said this, so this isn't just me saying I told you so, but I said this. It doesn't matter how the Yankees got there. It doesn't matter how the Dodgers got there. Whichever stars will play their best is the team that's going to win. And the Yankees, I'll say it like this. One thing a series does, and let's just stick to baseball. One thing a series does is it's going to exploit your weaknesses. It's going to, because you have to deal with a team for more than one game, and usually the team that you're playing is you're in the World Series, so you're playing the first or second best team, which will be determined by the end of this in the Dodgers. When you play a team in a series, they're going to exploit your weaknesses. It's almost impossible to hide your weaknesses because these teams are so good, they know how to exploit them. If you're bad at shortstop, best believe that the team that you're going against will exploit that. If you're bad at hitting, if you're bad at pitching, if you're bad at the outfield, a team is going to exploit that. And what was the issue with the Yankees? Again, I'm not taking away from anything that they've done. I'm not taking away from them making it to the World Series. But what was the issue with the Yankees? The issue was if their big hitters aren't playing well, if Aaron Judge isn't playing well, if Giancarlo Stanton isn't playing well, if Garrett Cole at the pitching isn't playing well, they're very short when it comes to the bullpen, and they're very short when it comes to other players picking them up. Yes, you have Anthony Rizzo, but he's not really considered, at least at this point of his career, one of those players that can put the team on his back and carry you to victory. For this World Series to be as hyped up as it was, and rightfully so, for then the outcome to be the Dodgers winning 4-1, that shows you everything you need to know. Even Jazz, I forgot how to pronounce his last name, but he was even coming in struggling. Which, let's talk about the World Series as a whole, because we're 6 minutes in, and I haven't exactly talked about the World Series. We saw we saw what happens when your stars come to play compared to when your stars struggle in the biggest moments. I learned a lot about the New York fan base this World Series. I learned a lot about them. One thing I learned is they love Aaron Judge a little more than you would think. Because I know the New York media, the New York fans, to turn on a player quickly. Hell, you remember how quick it was that they turned on Julius Randle? Julius Randle wins the Sixth Man of the Year. The next year, they're putting up signs outside of MSG wanting him out. The fans will turn on you in a heartbeat. And if you look at the numbers that Aaron Judge, especially games 1, 2, and 3, if you look at those numbers, he was by far one of, if not the worst players in the World Series. Yet, I didn't hear really anybody talk about how bad he was playing. Now, yes, he did play good, and he played good in Game 4 and Game 5, but we'll talk about Game 5 in a second. But I didn't really hear a lot of people killing Aaron Judge, which I thought he was, because he was putting up not even pedestrian numbers. He was putting up numbers that's just like, yo, how are you the great Aaron Judge and you're putting up these numbers in the World Series? That's the first thing I learned about New Yorkers, and they really love Aaron Judge, because I didn't hear much. Another thing that I learned is this. I was right. No, man, I'll say it like this. Going into the World Series, there was a lot of question marks with the Dodgers as far as, remember, going into the World Series, Freddie Freeman wasn't playing that well. You're also getting Shohei Ohtani, which we know how great Shohei Ohtani is, but this is his first World Series. And Mookie Betts was playing okay. The Dodgers team as a whole was playing all right, but a lot of people were still saying they probably should have lost to the Padres, but they didn't. So it is what it is. I learned that when I say I learned that I was right, we saw what happens when your best players do not play up to their potential. Going into the World Series, Giancarlo Stanton was by far probably the best player in the MLB as far as the postseason. There was nothing he could do wrong. It felt like every time he was at bat, the ball was going out the field. He was looking like prime Barry Bonds. That's how great Giancarlo Stanton was looking. It felt like all those Mariner days. It's like, yeah, it's time. All the games he missed because of injury. It was just, he was waiting for this moment, and he was letting it go. Aaron Judge, he wasn't playing great, but he was playing okay. It was just Giancarlo Stanton that was like, here, put the team on my back. Let's get it. But then you get to the World Series. And the World Series also shows you outside of you having to get there. So in a sense, everything that it took to get there mattered, because you had to get there. The World Series showed you that none of that mattered. Only thing that matters is the game in front of you and however you play then. Because when I tell you the tables flipped, like completely flipped, as far as all the stars, even with Shohei Ohtani hurting his shoulder. I thought when that happened, that could have been the series right there. While yes, it is baseball is probably the second ultimate team sport, but it's a morale changer when you have your best player compared to not having your best player, and it looked like Shohei Ohtani was finna be out of there. But the script completely flipped in the World Series. When I can't express to you, almost every, especially those first 3 games, almost every. Now the first game you can say, because Freddie Freeman had, might I add you? Okay, let's finish. Let's finish the thought, Jalen. Let's finish the thought. Outside of the first game, which obviously took a grand slam walk-off from Freddie Freeman to win, this series, the stars did not perform as much as you would need them to perform. I will say this: the Yankees role players played okay. They're especially Game 4. Their role players played really well. However, again, role players aren't going to win you championships, and that's no offense. That is no offense, but that's just the truth. I'll say it like this. I'll put it in terms, maybe people that don't watch baseball, maybe people that don't, I don't watch baseball that much, so this is why I do it. It helps me understand. Let's look at it in football terms. It's very rare that a backup quarterback is going to lead you to a Super Bowl. Very rare. It could happen, but it's very rare. You would need your best players to not be your quarterback. That's one. And you would need them to play out of their minds. It's very rare that you lose. Let's go to the LA Lakers. It's very rare that you would lose LeBron James and Anthony Davis, or LeBron James and Anthony Davis play horrible and you still make it to the NBA Finals. It's just rare. You need your best players. I feel like I've been emphasizing that because that's literally why the Dodgers are hoisting the World Series trophy this year. Freddie Freeman, I think he had, 6? He's had 6 straight World Series games with a home run. This is the same Freddie Freeman that struggled mightily in the postseason until he got to the World Series. Mookie Betts played like it was. Before we talk about what happens after the World Series, let me again congratulate the Dodgers for winning the World Series. And let's talk about that Game 5. Because a lot of people, when you talk to a lot of baseball fans, a lot of intelligent people, we saw a very, very rare occasion. I think this was the first time, I'm not 100% sure, but I think that this was the first time that a team at home led by more than 5 runs lost. The Yankees had a 5-0 lead. In fact, if you listen to the broadcasters, you'd think that the Dodgers, once you go down 5-0, because history is not on their side, it's like, all right, let's just pack it up and let's just win this, hopefully in LA. But when I tell you that Garrett Cole could not have had a worse, I think, 5th inning. That was probably the worst 5th inning of all time, at least in the World Series. You go into the 5th inning with a 5-0 lead, and you leave the fifth inning tied 5-5. It was so shocking watching that happen in real time. Again, I'm not someone that projects to be a avid baseball fan, but I'm like, dog, it felt like every single at bat for the Dodgers either was a home run or a base hit. A lot of people I hear now is blaming Garrett Cole for the loss. While I will blame Garrett Cole and his pitching for that fifth inning run, this is more on the fact of the stars for the Yankees did not show up when they needed to. And kind of like what we're seeing with the Cincinnati Bengals, you can't have a slow start in a World Series. You can't spot a team as stacked as the Dodgers. You can't spot them 3-game lead and think that, oh, it's time to turn it up. Because mind you, as much as I'm killing Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton, they turned it up game 4 and 5. They look like the sluggers that they were. It's just a little too late, and you're already playing with a hot team. Which brings me to my last point. This is just like last year. This is going to be a huge offseason for the Yankees. One of the players that I didn't really mention in this whole segment was Juan Soto, another player that didn't really come to play as much as you'd think he was, or as much as his talent holds. He didn't really come to play that much. If I was him, wouldn't leave the Yankees, but he is fetching, or he could fetch, I'll say, a contract upwards of $600 million. If you're the Yankees, obviously you can afford that, but I'm not saying you play for Juan Soto, but what I'm saying is I'm thinking it's a lot easier, because you know who else can afford Juan Soto? The Dodgers, the team you just beat. Now, I'm not saying he jump ship and go to the Dodgers. What I'm saying is if you have a team that just beat you and can pay you more, and maybe the way of living, because he was on the Padres, so he is used to the California life. That's just one player. I know you have all the greats, but that's just one player you can't lose. And I'm not saying they will. I'm just saying it would be a little easier if you would have won the World Series. As much as it was hyped up, it wasn't the best World Series. It was exciting, obviously, seeing some of the many historical moments like the Freddie Freeman home run streak in the World Series, and watching Freddie Freeman win the World Series MVP. Congratulations to him. And congratulations to the Dodgers. I know that there was a lot of talk around the Dodgers, seeing as though the last time they won the World Series was a shortened season in 2020. And before then, I think it was like 1980 or 1990s or something like that. So it was a while since the Dodgers, even though it is a historic franchise, it's been a while. And the fact that they were able to get that monkey off their back, and, you know, and I talked about it last episode, when you have the best players, which both teams did, it breeds excitement and it breeds expectation. So shouts out to the Dodgers for winning the World Series. Shouts out to Freddie Freeman for winning the World Series MVP. He was for sure the best player in the World Series. From the game one grand slam walk-off win to getting a homer every single game, it felt like. Shouts out to the Dodgers, man. There was a lot of naysayers, and they shut them up. So shouts out to y'all. Let's move forward, which is hilarious because I'm hearing A lot of people say the Jets sacrificed the Yankees so they can get a win. Obviously, I don't believe that, but it was funny and it was comical seeing as though as soon as the Yankees lost, right? I think the Knicks and Karl Anthony Towns had like a 44-point game. He had by far his best game as a Knick. And then on Thursday Night Football, at the start of Week 9, the Jets beat the Houston Texans 21-13. Now, I want to talk about this because I feel like we as fans, we as media, because I guess you can say, seeing as though I have a sports podcast, you can say that I'm part of the media. I don't know. But I feel like we're starting to fall for it again. And I'm urging my fellow fans, my fellow media people, do not fall for it again. And what I mean is, don't fall for the Jets may still have a shot. No, they don't. The Jets maybe can make a run. No, they can't. I understand. Strength of schedule is a thing. Strength of schedule is very important. When you're building out your schedule and you're looking to see the teams that you play, it's very important to manage your expectations by strength of schedule. There's also a lot of other features, but strength of schedule is one of them. And when you look at the Jets and you look at their strength of schedule, it is favorable. Outside of one, I think they only have to play one team that currently is above 500, and that's the Buffalo Bills. Again. So the strength of schedule works in their favor. I get that. I understand that you have a Hall of Fame quarterback. I understand that you have a Hall of Fame wide receiver now. I understand that at least it looks like from these past 2 weeks that the relationship between Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson is improving. We saw the incredible catch that Garrett Wilson had on Thursday Night Football. Undoubtedly catch of the year. I'm not going to say it's the greatest catch ever. I still would probably put the Justin Jefferson catch against the Bills last year, the George Pickens catch. I don't remember exactly who they played, but that George Pickens catch, if you type in YouTube George Pickens catch, it will show you exactly what I'm talking about. I definitely don't think it's on the same level as Odell Beckham Jr. The only thing that this one had over Odell Beckham Jr. is the Jets won and the Giants did not win that game. But I'm still going. I'm not saying it's the greatest catch ever, but it's for sure the catch of the year, at least so far. So I understand it. I understand it. Everything, if you're looking and you want to build a case to say that the Jets could still sneak into the playoffs, the Jets could make some noise in the playoffs, I get it. But please, please, please hold your horses. And please, please, please be honest about what we're seeing. And what we're seeing is this. Let's start with taking Thursday night. Let's talk about Thursday night. You played a Texans team that has struggled mightily all year at the line of scrimmage. Their offensive line has drastically let down both the team and C.J. Stroud. You're talking about a team that is down their top two wide receivers. One of them for the season is Stephon Diggs. Nico Collins still ain't playing, so they're down to one reliable wide receiver, and that's Tank Dell, who, might I add, finished the game with 126 yards and like six receptions. He was balling. You're also talking about a team that was down a good number of defensive players as well. So no, I'm not here trying to poo-poo. I'm not here trying to crap on the Jets win. I'm just putting things into perspective. I understand a win is a win, and I'm not disrespecting the win. But I would like for you to understand the circumstances that is behind this win. Also, one team is extremely, what's the word? Is extremely, man, the word just escaped me. Desperate. Boom. The Jets are extremely desperate for wins right now. Mind you, this is their third win on the season. They're 3-6 compared to a team that is now, I think, 6-3. I want to get back to that strength of schedule point that I had. While yes, the strength of schedule definitely supports the mindset of, oh, the Jets can make a huge run. The Jets can run the table. They essentially don't have to win all of their games. They can maybe drop one, and the one that they can drop is the Bills one, which is the only game that they're playing right now, or the only game that they have on their schedule as of right now has a winning record. So I get that. But what I want to combat that with is, well, they were desperate and they lost to the Patriots. They lost to the 49ers, which, I mean, it's the 49ers. They've lost to they lost to the Steelers. And I don't think that there was a game, while yes, the Steelers are good, I don't think that there was a game that had more pressure on the Jets, and when the Jets were more desperate than the Steelers, because that was also the week that they got Devontae Adams, and the week that they fired Robert Saleh and demoted Nathaniel Hackett. What I'm saying is this. Even in this game, and I know I sound like a hater, I know I do. I'm not. I promise you I'm not. I'm just showing, I'm presenting the facts. And I'm allowing you to do whatever you want to do with those facts. Even in this game, Aaron Rodgers continues his streak with finishing a game not throwing 300 yards. He hasn't thrown 300 yards, I think, in about 15 games. This is yet another game. The Jets are still the only team in the NFL that has not scored more than 25 points. They finished the game, they had 21 against a Houston Texans team. And going into the half, they were getting booed. Remember, they were getting booed by their home fans. So I'm not going to say it was a complete turn. It took an incredible catch by Garrett Wilson. It took an incredible catch, or just blown coverage completely, by the Houston Texans. It was tough. So while I'm saying congratulations, I'm not taking away from anything that the Jets have done, and I'm not taking away from this win. There's more concern, in my opinion, about this Houston Texans team, especially when we talk about their offensive line, and the fact of, while yes, they're going to get Nico Collins back, and he's definitely needed, but because right now they're really down to one reliable receiver in Tank Dell, so that's going to change, but their offensive line just let CJ Stroud down, man. Oh, and on top of that, I mean, Joe Mixon did have a good game. He rushed for over 100 yards. And that's another thing. The questions that we've had about this Jets defense was kind of realized. Joe Mixon still rushed for over 100 yards on a bad defense. I mean, a bad offensive line, or behind a bad offensive line. You're starting to see, there was an injury with the there was an injury on the defensive side of the ball for the Jets. And on top of that, Aaron Rodgers continued on the offensive side. The offensive line was getting beat again. Aaron Rodgers continued to get sacked. So this was a good win. I don't want to say it wasn't. This was an important win. Like I stated before, the Jets pretty much need all of the, they need to start building up wins, and it starts here. They need to essentially win out. They may be able to drop one game, but that one game that they can drop is probably the Bills. So they probably only have one. I know they got they got the Dolphins, I think, twice. But now you have the Dolphins with Tua. Yeah, in fact, let me see what their schedule looks like. All right. So you got the Cardinals, you got the Colts, Seahawks, Dolphins, Jaguars, Rams, Bills, and Dolphins. Again, you have to win out. And that's going to be tough because you're at Arizona, and Arizona's defense is playing much better than I thought they would. You have to play against the Rams, and that's later on the season, so we don't know how healthy they'll be. You have to play the Dolphins twice, and then the Seahawks, as we've seen, they're kind of like night and day. Are you going to get the good Seahawks or the bad Seahawks? If you get the good Seahawks, it's going to be a long day for the Jets. So I'm not saying it can't happen, and I'm not saying that if you are a Jets fan, if you are a believer that we're going to see Aaron Rodgers and this Jets team in the playoffs, I'm not saying don't believe that. What I am saying is don't let this win, where a lot of the fortune was on the Jets side and they still almost blew it. And I didn't even talk about homie dropping the ball, the rookie, because I don't understand why people do that. Drop the ball before they score the touchdown, which deemed it not a touchdown. Yeah. Shouts out to the Jets for beating the Texans 21-13. I'm just if you think that this is going to catapult the team into a new stratosphere, if I'm wrong, I will come in here and say I'm wrong. I don't mind being wrong. I really don't. But it's just hard for me to see that, Especially, again, it goes back to what I said last episode about flipping the switch. I know teams can flip the switch. Obviously, we've seen it. But there has to be glimpses. There has to be instances where we know what they look like when they flip the switch. We know that this team is capable. I have not seen that with the Jets all year. The wins that they have are, let me see, bro. The wins that they have are against the Titans and the Patriots. Oh, so they have played the Patriots twice. The Titans and the Patriots. Actually, no. They have not scored. The most that they've scored in a game is 22 points. Actually, 24, I'm sorry. So all I'm saying is, man, it's going to be tough. I haven't seen anything to make me think that the Jets are going to flip the switch. If they do, I will come in here and say I was wrong. As you guys can tell, I don't mind admitting my faults. But I don't think I will. But again, congratulations to the Jets for beating the Texans 21-13. And with Thursday Night Football, obviously comes the start of Week 9. So I'm going to give my Week 9 prediction, starting with the Dallas Cowboys at the Falcons. The Cowboys, they're not a good team. We've talked about this ad nauseum. It's been talked about a lot in the sports media realm, whether we talk about Fox Sports, ESPN. wherever you see a mic, wherever you see a person talking about sports, 9 times out of 10 they've been talking about the Dallas Cowboys, and rightfully so. The team is not good. I'm not saying they can't win, and I'm going to give my prediction here, but I think the biggest the newest talk about the Cowboys was Michael Parsons and Trayvon Diggs they were on their own podcast, and they were talking about the top 5 quarterbacks in the league, and they named a bunch. They named Lamar Jackson. You know what they did? They answered honestly. And as we've talked about this, especially this week in terms of Anthony Richardson, it may not be in your best interest to always be honest in situations like that. But they gave their top 5, and they didn't mention Dak Prescott, their quarterback. Now, they answered the question honestly, you know what I mean? And that was a firestorm. How can usually you start off with your quarterback and keep it moving. I will say this. I will shoot Dak Prescott some bells. Dak Prescott is a good quarterback. He has moments, and those moments, those interceptions, they are bad moments. But he is a good quarterback. The issue with Dak Prescott and the issue with this whole situation is the team is not built to overcome those moments. This is not a good team at all. There's no rushing game. They do not have a rush. They do not have a rushing game to save their life. I think they do not have a rusher. I think if you combined the rushing yards this year, I don't think they have over 150 rushing yards. I could be wrong. I don't think so. This team is not built on a winning foundation. So when you get to the Atlanta Falcons game and you're seeing a team that is going up compared to you going down, I have to pick the Falcons. I think the Falcons are at home. They're just a better team. While you can debate who is a better quarterback right now between Dak Prescott and Kirk Cousins, you can debate which defense is better right now, especially if Michael Parsons play with the Dallas Cowboys or Falcons, because the Falcons don't really have a great defense. What you can't debate is one team is elevating right now and the other one is decreasing. And you're playing at home. Atlanta is. And Atlanta, in my opinion, is a better, especially offensively, is a better team. So I'm going to go with Atlanta. You have Miami at Buffalo. Divisional games are always tough. We learned that last week with the Ravens and Browns. Divisional games are always tough. And Miami, they have a really good roster. Buffalo, they're playing really good football right now. I'm going to go with the Buffalo Bills. I think Miami, that was Tua's first game back last week when they lost to the Cardinals, but Tua has a issue playing not just outside, but outside in the cold, and you're going to Buffalo. While it shouldn't be that cold, not like playoffs or whatever, Tua just has a tough time playing against the Buffalo Bills. So I'm going to go with Buffalo. I think they're going to win this game. Raiders at Cincinnati. When you talk about, you know what it is? Oh, boy, that's perfect. I wish I would have thought of this in the moment. When we were talking about the Jets, and we said the strength of schedule and how you have to see remnants of good play for you to think that they can flip the switch. We've seen that with the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, I'm not saying that the Cincinnati Bengals are going to – I know they did lose last week against the Eagles. They got destroyed, actually. I'm not saying that the Cincinnati Bengals are going to just run the table and make the playoffs. But when you see their strength of schedule, which is they have a pretty favorable schedule. Yeah, they have the Ravens, I think, next week on Thursday Night Football, and they have the Browns and stuff. But outside of that, they have the Raiders this week. I think the Cincinnati Bengals can flip the switch and make a run. I don't know if they will, but we've seen how good that they can be when everything is clicking. And I'm going to pick them to beat the Raiders at home. The Raiders aren't that good of a team. They have moments, but one thing that we see from bad teams is they can stay within a game and then all of a sudden it's curtains. They were in the game against the Chiefs, but you never thought they were actually going to win it last week, you know. So I just both teams are kind of struggling, but Cincinnati, they have better pieces, and they did just get embarrassed, so they might at home, so they might want to have some revenge on the Raiders. But I got the Cincinnati Bengals beating the Raiders. The Chargers at Browns. This is a new look Browns. Jameis Winston, at least it looks like, because there were a good number of passes that could and should have been intercepted last week on the Ravens. But this looks like a new offense. You're seeing deep passes. You're seeing it just looks different. The team feels different with Jameis Winston, and with that, you have the defense still being the defense. So I think I'm going to go with the Cleveland Browns beating the Chargers. The Chargers' run game is really good with J.K. Dobbins, and you still have Justin Herbert. I think Justin Herbert is an overall better quarterback than Jameis Winston. But if we talk about an overall team, especially this Cleveland Browns team that looks a little different with Jameis Winston as a starting quarterback, and they're playing at home, I think the Cleveland Browns are going to win, you know? So I have Cleveland. New England at Tennessee. Let me tell you something. I don't know if Drake May is going to play. So even if Jacoby Brissett plays, Tennessee right now has Mason Rudolph as their quarterback. Yeah. I don't know what you expect from that. So I got the New England Patriots. Both teams aren't that good, but I trust Jacoby Brissett more than I trust Mason Rudolph. And honestly, even if Will Levis plays, I trust Drake May or Jacoby Brissett over Will Levis or Mason Rudolph, you know. So, yeah, the Tennessee Titans, man. Yikes. I got them. I got the New England Patriots. Washington at Giants. Do I need to say much? What is losing, you know? Damn, I'm probably going to be wrong too. But I got the Washington Commanders beating the Giants. I just think I'm obviously going to pick, I'm not going to say obviously, but what we've seen, I'm going to pick Jalen Daniels over Daniel Jones. Washington's defense, which is surprising because even with the loss of Jonathan Allen, this defense has looked really good, especially the run defense. And you don't really have to stop the run even though the rookie, I forgot his last name, he played last week. He looked really good. You really only got to stop Malik Neighbors and Darius Slayton. And I think, I have Washington winning. Washington's a better team. I think Washington is one of the best teams, not just in the NFC East, but the NFC. So I'm going to go with Washington. New Orleans at Carolina. Oh, boy. Well, okay, I will say that I think that they're saying Derek Carr is supposed to be back this game. And if Derek Carr is back, I have the Saints beating the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers suck, bro. And that's no offense to Bryce Young, which looks like he's starting. The Panthers aren't good. They're just as a organization, they're not. In fact, if you want to know how bad of an organization they are, look at the trade that they just did with the Ravens with Deontay Johnson. I think it was Deontay Johnson and a pick swap. The thing is, though, the pick swap. Here's the pick swap is only beneficial for the Ravens because I think it's a 5th or 6th round pick. You're picking at the top of the round. Compared to the Ravens, you're picking at the back of the round because they're better. So you got the player, a number one receiver, and you got you got a better pick. And if he leaves, you keep your pick. So it's like this trade does nothing beneficial for the Carolina Panthers and everything beneficial for the Baltimore Ravens. I don't know, man. The Carolina Panthers, they're just not a good organization. I know a lot of people tried to kill me. Was like, no, we're good. Andy Dalton's going to be the one to man. Andy Dalton got benched. I said that. I said, let's see how long that takes. Andy Dalton lasted, what, 2 weeks? Man. Yeah, I have the New Orleans Saints. And the Saints aren't that good, bro. I think they're trying to get off Chase Young. I think there's a possibility they can be trying to get off Marcus Lattimore. I don't know. The Saints ain't that good. They're on a mean losing streak. I think they're on a 6 or 7 game losing streak, actually. And I still got the Saints. Because the Carolina, man. Okay. Denver at Baltimore. I think that now, as I'm recording this, I don't think it's been determined yet because this is Friday evening. I don't know if it's been determined yet if Lamar Jackson's going to play. I know he missed Wednesday and Thursday in practice. But Lamar Jackson is kind of known to do that. But if it is serious and he doesn't play, then I don't think the Baltimore Ravens have a shot against the Denver Broncos. A Denver Broncos team that is playing really well, actually. But if Lamar Jackson plays, I think that they're playing at home, Baltimore. I have the Baltimore Ravens. I think Marlon Humphreys might be playing as well as Nate Wiggins. So and I want to see what this team looks like with Deontay Johnson. I know that there was a bunch of question marks as far as how he's going to fit with this team and what this means as far as lineups and personnel. And is this going to take away from Derrick Henry, which they obviously need Derrick Henry? I don't know, but I'm interested to see. And you're going up against a really good defense in the Denver Broncos. So I got the Baltimore Ravens winning. And obviously they kind of feel embarrassed at how they lost last week. So yeah, I got the Baltimore Ravens. Jacksonville at Eagles. The Eagles are starting to put it together. The Eagles, they're going to try obviously to ride the momentum of last week when they dismantled the Cincinnati Bengals. Jacksonville is not a good team, especially their defense. Their defense is god awful. And they're starting to click. The relationship between, if you look at it, man, they were out Lane Johnson. A.J. Brown was out. Devontae Smith got hurt. A bunch of defensive players were out. Like, they're starting, now that they're back, they're starting to get it together. And they're starting to put it together. I have the Philadelphia Eagles beating the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jacksonville isn't that good of a team, especially defensively. So Chicago at Arizona. I think I got Chicago Bears. If it wasn't for a Hail Mary, they would have beat the Commanders. And the Commanders, I think they have a better their defense, shockingly, has been playing better than the Cardinals. And I don't know if the Cardinals defense is going to be able to keep up with the Bears defense, or Cardinals offense, is going to be able to withstand the Bears defense, which is really good. And Caleb Williams had probably one of his worst games as a pro. I think he's going to rectify that. I have the Bears beating the Arizona Cardinals. So Detroit at Green Bay. I think this is going to be a really good game. But it looks like Malik Willis will be playing. I could be wrong. But right now, the Detroit Lions, that is an offense that looks damn near unstoppable. Defensively, there's still question marks, especially with Aiden Hutchinson being out, and they didn't play that good of a team. They played the Titans when they put 52 on their head, I think. The Green Bay Packers is not the Titans, but I do have the Detroit Lions. I think Detroit is the best team in the NFC by a wide margin, and if you don't have your starting quarterback, it's going to be tough. So I have Detroit. Rams at Seattle. It's again, I talked about it earlier, bro. It's like, what Seattle team are you getting? If you get the good Seattle team, then you have a great shot of winning. If you get a bad Seattle, then the Rams are. I don't know. Now, I don't know if Puka Nacua is going to play. I'm going to go with the Rams. I think I'm going to go. I know Puka might not play, but I think Cooper Kupp is playing. I definitely think Matthew Stafford's playing. Kyron Williams is playing. I got the Rams were coming off a win last week against the Vikings. I got the Rams. So in Seattle too, yeah. Indianapolis at Minnesota. I want to stay here for a second and talk about this Anthony Richardson situation a little bit more. We talked about it last episode as far as him getting benched, and what are some things that could have been eluded to him getting benched? And a lot of people were pointing to the fact that when he tapped himself out because he was tired, and they were adamant saying that wasn't it. How do I? How do I say this? It is extremely difficult being a NFL player, let alone being an NFL quarterback. That's probably one of the most difficult positions that you can be in, because you literally are you're the face of the team, and it doesn't matter how good of a team you are. If you're not good, the team doesn't have a shot. And there's been multiple occasions since he's been drafted, 4th overall, might I add, that he has not shown, and when I say he, I mean Anthony Richardson, has not shown the, has not shown the maturity to be a starting quarterback for an NFL team. And while no, I don't think that the only reason why he was benched was because he tapped himself out, I do think that was the proverbial icing on the cake. Mind you, Anthony Richardson has been absolutely garbage this year. He's been one of the worst quarterbacks in the league this year, if not the worst. He is, obviously he's hurt, and I hope for a speedy recovery, but he was, I think, one of the only quarterbacks that was worse than him was Deshaun Watson. And it may be a confidence thing, it may be a lack of preparation, but it just doesn't seem like he got it. And instead of elevating, he kept decreasing game after game. It was getting worse. And I think the whole tapping of the head really confirmed, oh yeah, you're not ready to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. Hell, Zaire Alexander said it. His teammate was like, yo, I wasn't mature enough to be an NFL player, and it took me 4 years before I got my shot to get a starting spot again. Now, the defense and the quarterback are two completely different positions, and I don't think Anthony Richardson has 4 years to get it together, but he needs to get it together in a heartbeat. Because don't get me wrong, Joe Flacco has been playing well, but there is a clear ceiling on Joe Flacco. And the last thing that you can have is Joe Flacco go out there and look incredible while you looked horrible. Because, I'm not saying this is it for Anthony Richardson. I hope it's not. Because we've seen flashes. We've seen the flashes. He has the talent. I talked about it. Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. He has the talent to be a top-tier quarterback. There's not too many quarterbacks that can. I think it was against I don't remember the team. Maybe the Texans, where he threw that bomb after, tripping. He has flashes of greatness. But then he also has flashes of or more flashes than not of, bro, he was like 2 for 15 at halftime of the game last week. So I want what's best for Anthony Richardson, but he hasn't shown the maturity level, and they pretty much said it all week. And on top of not showing the maturity level, you haven't produced at all really much positive. Some, but much not. Okay, you have shown promise. You've shown flashes, but there's been too many bad instances to hang their hat on more than the flashes. And now the man's sitting down. And you're about to go against a Minnesota team that wholeheartedly believes that they should have won last week if it wasn't for a blatant face mask. And you're playing in Minnesota. But the Indianapolis Colts have benched Anthony Richardson, and because of that, I have the Minnesota Vikings. Even with them, I don't even know why I said it like if I got the Minnesota Vikings beating the Colts. I think the most criminal thing is they have us watching that in prime time when they have, let's say, Denver at Baltimore. That's at 1 o'clock. They have Miami at Buffalo at 1 o'clock. They have if you want to put the Dallas Cowboys back on prime time, they got that like Detroit and Green Bay. But I have to sit through the Minnesota Vikings and Indianapolis Colts in prime time. Lord have mercy. But I have the Minnesota Timberwolves. I have the Minnesota Vikings. And for the last game, Monday Night Football, you have the Kansas City Chiefs going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I did talk about this as when it happened. I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have had a fantastic season. I think Baker Mayfield has had a great season. The defense is sitting really good. And there was expectations and questions on, was last year a fluke or was it going to be more of the same? And as we're seeing, this year has been great for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. However, you lose your top 2 wide receivers. I don't think Mike Evans will be playing. So you don't have Mike Evans. You lose Chris Godwin for the season. That's tough on any team, on any organization. And actually, we saw that last week. Like Baker Mayfield, while he played well, they couldn't keep up with the Falcons offensively. And it forces Baker to try to force more, which causes more interceptions. And the Kansas City Chiefs, don't get me wrong, man. You have now DeAndre Hopkins, Xavier Xavier Worthy's playing well, and it's the Chiefs. And yes, the Chiefs have not looked like the Chiefs all year, but they are the only undefeated team right now. And you're playing in Arrowhead. I have the Chiefs winning. I think the season was over. I'm not saying that they can't make the playoffs, but if there's any remnants of I don't think that this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team, especially offensively, is good enough to, because you lose Chris Godwin, you lose Mike Evans for a long period of time. I don't think that this team is good enough to make any runs. So I have, at least in the playoffs, I think that was over when they lost their 2 wide receivers. So I have the Kansas City Chiefs beating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Monday Night Football. So those are my Week 9 predictions. Let me know what you guys think, and we'll see. And lastly, before we go, we have the unpopular topic of the day, and this one I have to talk about the Milwaukee Bucks. And oh boy. The Milwaukee Bucks remind me a lot of the New York Jets right now. Let me first say I understand completely. The last thing especially in a sport like basketball, the last thing you can afford is your best player, your franchise player, to not be happy with the situation that they're in. and have options that they can go anywhere else. And that's for sure what Giannis has. Giannis is one of the best players in basketball, if not the best player in basketball. And him leaving would completely send your franchise into the dark ages. That's just facts, especially leaving for nothing. But this is a cautionary tale as to what happens when, I'm not going to say your franchise player has too much power, but what happens when you listen to him when you maybe shouldn't. Doc, the team now is 1-4, and they're on a 4-game losing streak. Now, it ain't like they lost to the Bulls, they lost to the Nets, they lost to the Celtics, but it's the Celtics, and they lost to the Grizzlies. The only team they beat was the 76ers, and that's without Joel Embiid and Paul George. Gilbert Arenas talked about it. I talked about it. Doc Rivers, I'll say it, whatever. Doc Rivers ain't that good of a coach. And I said that he was going to struggle with coaching this team, more specifically coaching Damian Lillard, because he is not great at coaching offensive talents at the guard position. And he, as in Doc Rivers, has a losing record as the head coach for the Milwaukee Bucks since he's been the head coach, since he's taken the reins. And this is going back to last year. He has a losing record. And now if you look at this team, I understand Chris Middleton isn't healthy, but there's no way that you should pick this team over someone like the Celtics, over someone like the Knicks at this point. I understand that you want and should make your best players happy. But sometimes they may not be. Sometimes what makes them happy is not the best interest for your team. Yo, the Bucks are paying, 3 or 4 coaches right now? The worst part about this is when you listen to it, you're not really hearing much blame from the coach. You're hearing it. Damian Lillard had 4 points the other night, bro, against the Grizzlies. 4. And I think the bigger issue is, I'm sure you fire the head coach to get Doc Rivers to make Giannis happy. And Giannis is more unhappy now than he was before the coach got fired. Would you look? Yo, I forgot. Homie, bro, the coach was 30-22. Or no, 30-12. 30-12. Before he got fired. And I think Doc went like 19-22 or something like that. Just be careful, man, because now the Bucks are in a horrible situation. Yeah, you can fire Doc Rivers and get another coach, but that's just yet another coach that you're firing and yet another coach that you're paying not to be there. And this team is not good. Yo, they about to play the Cleveland Cavaliers next. They might get smoked. Oh, man. Yeah, that's what happens. And I'm not blaming this on Giannis. What I'm saying is you just got to look at the situation. If Giannis saying, yo, I'm not happy with the coach, well, let's figure out why. Maybe let's not just fire him and bring in a coach that historically has not been great at coaching great play. Yo, Doc Rivers only has one championship to his name, and that's with the Celtics. That's it. Oh boy. Well, good luck, Bucks fans. Good luck, Bucks. Because Dame's not getting younger. Giannis ain't getting younger. There you have it, man. That's been today's episode of the Unpopular Podcast. I truly appreciate you guys. If you want an Unpopular Podcast shirt, hoodie, sweater, long sleeve joggers, the link is in the description below. I have multiple different colors, multiple different designs. Get your Unpopular Podcast merch today. Also, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm trying to get as many subscribers as possible. I appreciate all of you guys. If you like the content, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to subscribe. It means a lot. Also, for my DSP listeners, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, Pandora, wherever you get your DSPs, wherever you're listening to me, please follow, please subscribe. It means so much to you. I appreciate everyone that supports. And please, please, please follow the socials, or follow the DSPs. Also, please follow the socials. Instagram, TikTok, I post pretty much daily, whether we talk about reels, stories. If you want to go back and forth, that's probably the quickest way to get to me. Just keep it respectful, and I don't mind going back and forth. Again, Instagram, TikTok, please subscribe, please follow. Until next time, much love.